Hello, welcome to this lesson. We're going to discuss one of the most basic parts of playing electric guitar, and that's feel and phrasing. Feel is when you're able to play a guitar and play a solo or a specific guitar part which comes straight from your heart. How is that possible? At first, I think the human voice is the most emotional thing there is in music because it comes directly out of the human itself. With all the air, with all the dynamics, with all the sound that you can create, all the frequencies, I think it's really nice to try and imitate the human voice. If you have, for instance, a saxophone, the air comes out of the player. So, well, it's just a mix from the instrument, which is separated from the person, but the person connects it through air. With the guitar, that's a whole other story, because the guitar is really not connected to the person, not connected to something inside me, not to my breathing or air. So it's really disconnected. So how can you do that, and how is it possible to play notes and to make them come alive? You heard me play a solo, and I'm going to discuss just a few things which can maybe help you to create a better sound and create a better tone and a choice of notes. First thing I want to do is just let you hear the difference when you're playing one note. So what's very important is you can hear the difference. For instance, if I play C, there's a lot of C's on the neck. So I'll start with this C. Hear the difference? So the C sounds different on an A string than on a lower E string. This C. Okay, high C on a high E string, on a B string. You can sometimes try, and can you hear the difference if you play two C's? Now what's the difference is I'm playing one C, I'm playing with a downstroke, and one C, I'm playing with an upstroke. So that's the difference too. So it's really important where you play the notes, where you play a motive. It sounds really, if you play a motive like, you can play it here. It's the same notes, but it sounds different. The second thing is you can play a downstroke or an upstroke. Sounds really basic, but sometimes I'm surprised that guitarists who play like years, they haven't thought about that. Because it really depends on if you're playing a downstroke or an upstroke, or where you play the notes on the neck, how it sounds. So let's take for instance this C. When I'm playing it with a downstroke, it sounds like. When I'm playing it with an upstroke, it sounds like down, upstroke. So that's when you hear the difference. It's a totally different sound. So you can try experimenting with it to play upstrokes or downstrokes. Okay, then when you discuss which note you're going to play, let's say you're going to play C, this one, then if you play C like that, maybe starting a melody like, and you leave it, then there's really nothing happening. You can play downstroke, upstroke, nothing happening. So the first thing most guitar players do is make that note come alive, because this is a note you play and you hear, but it doesn't live. I think it doesn't live. There you go. So what you do is you play vibrato. There are different vibratos. Let's use the basic one where, for instance, I have my index finger here. So when I play vibrato, I just move around like this, you know. I just maybe if you hear it like very slow, you will hear that the note goes up a little bit like that. So you can do that up and down movement like this. Comes from out of the wrist. I'm just hanging like this. It's really loose, and you can practice really the vibratos. You can practice them in a rhythm. You can practice them in intensity. Well, like you can have a really, let's say, a smooth vibrato. Like that. Or you can make it more extreme, like. You know? So that's, you can make it intense by playing it smooth or by playing it in more an extreme manner. Another thing is you can do a vibrato in tempo. You can say let's take a beat, and then you can play them like 8 notes or triplets or 16 notes, depending on the tempo and what you want. But it really makes it different in how the notes sound. So let's say I do this note again, and I'll try. Let's take this is my tempo. 1, 2, 3, 4, and I will play 8 notes. So you get like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 1, E, 2, E, something like that. It sounds a little silly and that slow. Like, okay, but you can practice that because you have a feel. Okay, then we go back and we take triplets. It's just like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It goes like. One, two, three, 1, 2, 3. You can try it faster, and you can try 16 notes. Like, okay, I first show you what 16 notes are. 1 E and the 2 E and the 3 E and so forth. Maybe it feels weird to practice that, but you don't have to practice it because most of the time, when I'm playing ballads or when I'm playing up-tempo songs, I adapt my vibrato in tempo. And I don't think about it. Don't think too much about it. It's just a little tip. You can try, but most of the time I don't think about it. Okay, that's the vibrato going up and down. Then you have a more smoother vibrato, which I think originally comes from classical guitar playing, and that's when you move from the left to the right. So it's more subtle. So it's like this. For instance, let's say I have my pinky here, and I play this note. And what you do is you just go. The first example was going up or down with your finger. Now you're going from left to the right. So you kind of do this, you know. You see, I don't hook my thumb on the edge of the neck. I just let it loose. Works better if you have your thumb. You can't move like that. So that's another vibrato, maybe for subtle parts. Yeah, you can do the same things with that, dividing different rhythmic groups, but you don't need to. Just nice to feel it, but just forget it when you're playing a solo or maybe melody line. Okay, the third thing I want to talk about. So we had notes. Why you can play all the different notes? Do you play them downstrokes, upstrokes? Then you got second was vibrato. Third is connecting those notes. Now you can play a small group of notes. Like for instance, I just make up some things like this. So let's say that's my melody. Okay, what I do at this moment, I'm playing all the notes with my pick. I just play them downstrokes. I can also play them with down up. You see? But you can also connect these notes with hammer on and pull offs. Like the first thing I play is. So instead of playing the notes with your pick, you can just play one time with your pick and then make a pull off. And I hammer on. So then you go further down the lick. And you have these 3 notes. You can do the same. You can do like play hammer on or pull off. So that's a hammer on, pull off. This is like pull off, hammer, hammer on. Okay, that's the last thing I did, is what I wanted to tell you. You can also do that by sliding the notes. Then you have a few notes to play, a little motive, but if you all hit the notes with the pick, it sounds maybe a little stiff, I don't know, but it sounds more fluent when you use hammer-ons, pull-offs. And the last thing I did was this. That's a slide. You can also play these two notes. I have an F and a G. You can play that with a slide. You can do it hammer-on or slide, depending on which finger you start. But the interesting thing about slides is, so we have hammer-on, pull-off. That's the way to connect the notes. So I will play the notes like I first did. And now we'll play the same notes, same motif, using the connection through hammer-ons, pull-offs and slides. So you can mix that, and so you can hear all of a sudden that the melody sort of comes alive more. You can also do the different things with your pick. You can play it smooth, you hit it hard. So that's a difference too. If you do so, this is an interesting one too. It's a backflip. No, it's a backslide. So this note isn't in the lick. It's in the lick here, but not on this position. So when you do to continue and play the D note again, the first thing I did was like that. But you can also use the backflip for that, the backward slide. It's like, so that's really, so you have 4 different ways to connect the notes. Hammer on, pull off. Then you have the slide, sliding into another note, or using the slide to push forward the note. I don't know how to say it, but like this. I think I heard many blues players do it. Like that. So that sounds really nice to use that. So that's a good way to make the notes you play, or the music or the melody lines come alive. All right, then there's another thing you can use by playing a melody, and that's when you're bending notes. So, for instance, if I wanted to play, you know, so the notes I have is D, D, C, D to E. The E you can play by bending, string bending, the D note. What's best to do is do the bending, and after you did the bending, use a vibrato, because if you use a bending like this, it's the same. There's nothing going on. And it's really good if you're not sure if you pitch the E the right way. So like that, you know. So if you do this, it's always good. It's always right. So that's so you can bend notes. So you have 5 ways: hammer on, pull off, the slide, the backflip, and the string bending. So you have to practice that, but you have to know when you're playing. Let's for instance say you're doing an improvisation, then you really have to know when you bend and where you bend to, because this bending is a whole tone. but there's also more than a whole tone. You can play like 1.5. So you have to bend more, like that. So you can practice that, but the most important thing is that when you're bending, know to which note you're bending, because if you're doing a wrong bending, it sounds terrible. So for instance, you can practice that in a pentatonic scale. I'll show you just quick. You have the pentatonic scale everyone knows. This is this one. Let's take the higher notes, the G, B, and E string. So if I'm bending this note, I know the next note is the E, so I do. Okay? But if I'm playing a pentatonic scale, a position higher, and this one started from A, but I'm playing the same notes starting on C. Then we have on a G string, we're going to bend a 1.5 tone, so you bend from the E to the G. That's a whole other story. So at the first example it was this. Now you do. You see, if you don't know that, it sounds. Let me play it false. See, so you have to know. So now I did a whole tone bending, but I needed 1.5 tones. So know which direction you bend, and do it. You can start doing that on the higher strings, because you can do it also on the lower strings. But then you kind of pull it really like that, you know. But it's best to practice the upward bending on the G, on the B, and on the high E string. Okay, so we give you a few things which are different bendings than we normally use. This is an example of the bending I use, the Jimi Hendrix bending. What happens here is, I'll play it here in the fifth position. I'm going to bend this note. It's a G note. You just have it on this finger. It's a one-tone bending. Going from this one, from the G to the A. But when I'm doing that on the B string and I'm going up, I can switch from strings. So I go from the B string to the G string, and it sounds like this. Sounds really strange when I play like that. So you get a little surprise in there, because I play the blue note. The blue note is this note, it's E flat. So I'll play, that's A minor pentatonic. If I use the blue note, then I have a sixth note with it, because pentatonic means 5 in Latin, I'm not sure. So if you add the E flat to it, then you have 6 notes in there, and sounds like, then you call it the blue scale. What I did with the so-called Hendrix bending, I ended on the blue note. It's a little odd, but it sounds really cool if you do it. That's just right. You can do the same on the high E string. I'm using the ring finger for it because it feels better. It's the same. Oh no, sorry. So you can do 2. Ain't that cool? So maybe that's a nice thing to do. And I have one more string bending. It's not a tip. It's another example than just bending the strings. I don't know, but I call it the Steve Lukather bending because I heard him do that. I think he does that in Rosanna. Oh, I didn't know that I could play that. It's been a long time ago. So he does this bending, like, what was I? Just bending up a tone, but what he does is, the next position, he uses his pinky and frets that, and then you get this. Like that. make pull and let it down. So you can maybe practice that bending too. So you have a whole palette, a whole palette. You have a whole, you have a different choices of colors to really play the notes. So that's the notes and how to play the notes, but it depends on what you're doing. So when you're, for instance, when you're composing, thinking about a melody, or you're improvising, a thing that can help is make phrases that sound logical. And a good way to practice that is thinking about the way that classical composers did that. So you play the notes, you know how to play the notes, but now in which form do you play it? So this part is all about phrasing. Phrasing is like talking. When somebody really talks like on one pitch level, when I talk like this and I don't lower or raise my pitch, it's really getting boring. But when I'm using dynamics, higher, lower, breaks once in a while, you can use that as a philosophy for improvising or maybe thinking or coming up with certain melodies. I will show you an example which really helped me, and that's something which I think you hear most in classical music, and I call it playing in sequences. I will start the backing track right now and start playing. And it's really simple. We're in the key of C major. I don't know for sure. There's a little, maybe 2 bars, something that's, I don't know what it is. Or maybe it goes to like F minor. Not sure. But it doesn't really matter the key. But listen to the things I play. Here we go. Okay, so I think you got the picture. There's a few other things I did. What's also a good idea is when you're playing a motif by repeating the motif. So not doing the logical thing, but repeating something. And then maybe you repeat it maybe 2, 3 times, and the 4th time you're moving on with your solo, with your melody line. So that's also a very good one. Okay, well, I will do that, and you can practice that, as I said, on 1 string, because that sounds logical. You have to know the scales, of course, like maybe you can do it in 1 position, like that. But it's so that it's really simple. People often forget if you're playing rock and roll, if you're playing a pop rock, or you have to do the play solos or play melody lines, which a bigger audience loves, and do those kind of things. It's all a big thing. So that's all about phrasing and all about how you make the sound and make your note sound better. So we'll do 1 short example of a few phrasing things to show you what I mean. Okay, here we go. Where is my backing track? Okay, so repeat, repeat, repeat. You can also shift that rhythmically. So for instance, if you play the motif started on the beat, you can maybe second time or some other time play it on the after beat. So a lot of ideas. We're gonna move on to the sixth chapter, and that's using the whammy bar. We discussed bendings, we discussed how to connect notes, but you can also do that same thing like vibrato and connecting notes with a whammy bar. Vibrato is obvious, I think, because I heard they called it vibrator. In the Netherlands, it means something like a Steely Dan. Look that up. So they changed it into whammy bar, I think. Okay, so what you do with it is every guitar player knows it's like vibrate the strings. Okay, so you can do with your fingers or with the vibrator. Obvious. But there's a few other things you could do with the whammy bar, and that's just it's a little bit like a slide, like push down and go to the notes. You can use that as also as a way to make your notes sound different. Like that. You can also switch it for you guys. It's to the right. It's for you also to the right. For you guys to the left. I don't know. And push it because this is a floating bridge. So so you can go up also. You can do like. Like that, okay. And the other stories, you know, like that, or maybe like everybody knows it. You know how to do it. But the last thing I want to tell you about this vibrato, this whammy bar, is the things Jeff Beck does with it. And you know, rest in peace, my man. I see some big examples for all of us. What he did is he played an artificial harmonics like that. And he started moving around with the whammy bar and pitch the notes, and that's really hard because you have to really listen to it. So you can use different melodies. I think it's one of his songs, I don't know for sure. Or he did like. Okay, no, it wasn't really pitched perfectly. I know. Didn't do that for 20 years, but you can really. It's really cool to do a really simple thing like that. Those things I do a lot, but by not doing the pitch harmonics like. But really. Those are things which I heard Steve Vai doing. So you can use all these different examples of how to make your note sound interesting in an improvisation or maybe in melody lines, playing the melody lines. So that's it for today. I'm going to wrap it up and just play a short solo for you. I'm going to leave with a solo. I would really like you to subscribe me, and maybe you could support me and make a donation on GoFundMe, because it's a hard time for a musician like me. But I really want to do the content, and if I wanted to keep on doing content and even more and better, then I need a lot of, not a lot, okay, I need some equipment. It's really good when you guys all gather for that. And every donation is welcome. If you don't, it's also okay. It's also okay. I keep on doing these things. It's been too long that I'm doing that I did a guitar tutorial. Thanks very much for listening. I hope you had fun with it, and I hope maybe it will like upgrade your playing or something. Good luck with that. If there are any questions, just ask me. If you have any subjects you wanted me to discuss on guitar playing or music, just let me know. Subscribe, and thanks very much, and until the next video. Bye bye.